Hi, neighbors. My name is Matthew Dobler. I am one of your commissioners here in Township. Months and years doing a series of videos that are designed at getting information out to you that will make life in Aleppo Township easier and knowing what you need here. So in the past, we've done videos on trash and recycling collection. We've done videos on resources that are available to Allegheny County residents. And we've had Corporal Chris Simkowiak here in the past to talk about fraud prevention. So we're delighted to have Corporal Simkowiak back again today. And today what we're going to talk about is solicitation awareness. The subject came up because many of the neighborhoods in Aleppo Township, in particular the Ridge and the Manor, there are neighborhoods that are really compact and they have a lot of houses that are neighborhoods to be really fruitful places to go do what they're going to, in essence, a lot of bang for their buck when they come over there. And as we've been doing these videos and I've been talking to neighbors and saying, well, what are things that you want to know more about? Came up is, what are the rules about solicitation? When are they allowed to be there? All those kinds of things. So we thought, let's bring in the expert. Let's have him come in and tell us exactly how solicitors. So here we go. And Corporal Simkowiak, I mean, right? Solicitors do have rights, right?
Yes, correct.
It's not correct that solicitors are randos that are coming into our neighborhood that we're just allowed to keep out like a gated community. So the question is, how are we balancing the rights of solicitors versus the rights of residents, right?
Correct.
And
keep in mind too, that a lot of people think, well, where I live, they'll never find us. They'll never come. They're finders and dig out neighborhoods that you would never think that they would find.
Right.
And they're going, where they use money.
Excuse me. Okay, so obviously Aleppo Township has rules, right, about
Correct.
solicitation. Where can we find those rules?
The rules can be found online and also at the township building as well.
Right. You know, I can kind of piece in some of these details here. Oh, excuse me. They're on our website. All of our Aleppo Township ordinances are on the website, and in particular, concerning solicitation, are found at section 277 of the Aleppo Township ordinance. Let me think. Link in the digest of this video to hit the directly, but when you find them, you want to look for section 277.
Excuse me, if you have any family or friends that live outside this area and they're inquiring on it as well, they can also go on to their local borough or municipality and research this as well, because this is a problem that's not just here, it's everywhere right now.
Yeah. And we should add, that's a great point, Corporal. The rules that we're going to talk about today are specific to Aleppo, but they're kind of generic ordinances. I mean, the things that you're going to hear us talking about here, these ordinances are very old in Aleppo. They've been around for a while. It's not anything new that's been created. And I'm sure, although I wasn't around when they were created, but I'm sure that they're boilerplate, and I'm sure that they're very common from municipality to municipality.
Correct.
So again, while the things we're going to talk about here in Aleppo are Aleppo specific, if you do have people that are outside of Aleppo, they're probably going to come up with something very similar in their ordinances. Yeah. Okay, so what do Aleppo Township ordinances require from solicitors in terms of licensing? In terms of getting a permit, what do you have to have?
Photo ID. They have to come up to the township building and provide photo ID and get the proper paperwork documented.
Right. So they have to have a license, and then what do they have to do with that license?
That license has to be displayed.
Okay.
It has to be displayed on their person when they're out and canvassing the community.
So it's kind of like a fishing license, right? You got to have it. You got to have it somewhere on an outer garment. People have to be able to see it.
Correct. It has to be visibly around their neck.
Right. And if it's requested by a law enforcement officer or a resident, they have to provide it, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. We know that to solicit, you have to have a license, and we're sort of sticking a bookmark into solicit because there are some activities that go outside of solicitation that we'll talk about in a second that do not require a license. But to solicit, you have to have a license and you have to be able to display that. Does that mean that everybody who might come and knock on my door has to have a license?
That's not true. Well, I mean, people can come that are from nonprofit charities and religious organizations. They do not need a license.
Right. And so these people are not solicitors, right? This is the distinction that I'm making.
Correct.
And without getting into a constitutional law lecture here, basically that has to do with freedom of speech, right?
Correct.
That there are some court cases that interpret, if you're out there and you're talking about religious issues, or you're talking about nonprofit corporation issues, this is free speech. And
Correct.
they're not asking for money. They're not selling anything. They're just out there trying to get their point across.
And
right?
I think that'll even also encompass probably political things too, as well.
Okay, so again, if somebody comes knocking on your door and you say, Dobler told me that they have to have a license, they have to have it on their hat or their shirt or something like that, you might get into a little bit of soft space if these people are not active solicitors, if they are getting into this protected space of religious speech or political speech to work for a nonprofit.
Correct.
Okay. People who are solicitors, are there when they're allowed to be around or not allowed to be around in terms of
yes.
when they can?
From 9 p.m.
That is what it is in Aleppo. So start time day excluding Sunday. And also one option in there. It's the Allegheny County courts are closed. Not be solicited. We're recording this video on May 25th, and Labor corner. So today you're free from.
May not honor that too, because they'll think we'll be around. Not briefly on how we would handle.
Point. I mean, obviously, there are these rules and rules. Everybody aware of the solicit. We should go back and make sure that we understand that those hours soliciting on holidays when courts are closed, again, to license only. Those do not necessarily
Correct.
apply to free speech in terms of organizations or.
Correct.
How about whether they are type folks? Are they allowed to leave?
Yes, they can leave flyers. Not allowed to put.
Okay, so if they roll them up and put their.
Yes. Now, a lot of people have them. They can do that. Not supposed to be cases before where people and a person alarmed and thought someone went into the house. That cannot happen. Under the mailbox at the exterior of the door.
Okay.
The mailbox inside and within a home.
The mailbox rule, right? Nobody other than a mail and a U.S. mail. The that prohibit any of you from putting somebody else. So what about? And I know that some people I talk on post a sign station. Is this the silver bullet? Is this going to make everything?
No, it isn't, because you still have nonprofit, political, and charity and religious organizations that can still come and do so. Right.
So to be clear, and let me just make sure I get this particular ordinance number down. It's 277-3C of the Aleppo Township ordinances. 277-3C says a licensee shall not engage in any conduct licensed under this chapter upon any premises displaying a sign prohibiting such activity. But unfortunately, that again uses that term licensed under this chapter, so it applies only to the conduct that you need to have a license for. So if you don't need to have a license for it, and once again, that encompasses everybody who's coming out and ringing your bell to talk about nonprofit issues, to talk about political issues, to talk about religious issues. Any of those people don't have to obey a sign that says no solicitation. Correct. All right, so let's pivot here and let's get away from the ordinances for a bit, and let's just talk about some common sense stuff in terms of dealing with solicitors, free speech people, anybody that comes up and rings your bell. I mean, what are some things that you should be on the lookout for when you're dealing with these people?
First thing is, in your neighborhood or your community, if you see a group canvassing or you see people walking about trying to solicit or whatever they may be doing, communicate with one another. Do it through email, group, text messages. Communication is the biggest thing in a neighborhood. If neighbors talk regularly, they keep an eye out on things, and it makes it a lot safer.
Yeah.
Another thing to look for is if they approach your door, come to your house, always look beyond what you're looking at. So if you see someone ring the doorbell, don't just focus in on them. Look beyond them. Look for another vehicle in the neighborhood, maybe someone standing at the edge of the yard. Not trying to alarm everyone. However, there are people that will stake out a community to commit a crime. And they may have a driver in another car, try to get a look at your house. So you want to just be observant beyond just your front door when they approach.
And again, I echo Corporal Simkowiak's concern about alarming people. That being said, solicitation is often used as a cover for more nefarious activity. So if there are people who are trying to stake out properties, if there are people who are trying to figure out which houses they want to attack, using the front of a solicitor is a common way to do that. I mean, I think that's, well, I guess in Home Alone, that's not quite how they did it, but it's
Right.
something similar. They come up, they ring the bell, they get you to open the door, and they can look inside and they can see what you've got going
Correct.
on. Yeah.
Correct.
All right. So, I really like this idea about being in touch with your neighbors, and so much, whether it's fraud prevention or whether it's solicitation awareness, really it all comes back to knowing your neighbors, being in touch with your neighbors, knowing your surroundings and looking around, and really a huge part of it is just being a good neighbor, right?
Right, correct. And if someone approaches your house and does try to solicit something, and maybe they don't go to your house for the next 3 or 4 or 5, but they go somewhere else, talk about it with everyone when you see it, just so everybody can be aware.
Okay, so it's such a tricky question because I know we don't have a great answer to it. But here's the scenario that I read about online. You've watched this video, you know that solicitors have to have a license. You're aware of the difference between a solicitor and somebody who's talking with free speech issues, and this person is definitely asking for money, they're definitely a solicitor. You ask for a license, and they hand you a piece of paper, but you think to yourself, well, wait a minute. Anybody that has a cell phone with a camera or a scanner and a computer and an inkjet color printer, anybody could whip this up.
Correct.
Right?
That is correct.
So what do we do to avoid forged solicitation licenses?
I would say at that point, I think, Matt, what you'd want to do is 911 it. You'd want to call us and have us help investigate. You could easily say, well, I could take a screenshot with my phone and I can investigate it. Well, that's going to delay time. If you get us involved, then we can put everything together, get in communication with the township, and actually look at the legitimate ordinance paperwork that Aleppo has.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way to go. And I think if you have any suspicions about the paperwork that you're seeing, that's a good time to get the police involved.
And even if they keep talking to you and try to persuade you to say it's okay, any little bit of doubt, please call.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, again, if it were me, when solicitors come to my door, I either don't answer the door or I just kind of wave them away. So I don't really understand this, but if somebody does decide to go open the door and talk to a solicitor, what precautions should you be taking at that point? You open the door and they're standing there, you're keeping them outside. What precautions should you be taking there?
I definitely would not let them in the house. I would keep everybody in the front where you can see them. Again, look beyond them, check their person out, see if they have anything that's bulky? Are they carrying something that looks out of place? Are they wearing clothing that doesn't fit for the time of the year or the season? And when you're talking with them, see if there's anybody else in the area too. And if all possible, please do not invite them in.
Right. And I think that, you know, when you're talking to them, again, you don't have to be Dick Tracy. You don't have to have a degree in criminology. Right. When you're talking to people, oftentimes people that are trouble in these instances are emotionally disturbed. They're people who have perhaps a drug problem.
Correct.
And so you can kind of get a sense that there's something that's just not right. And I think that when you get into those scenarios where you have something that's just not right, again, this is a time just to get the police involved.
Right, call 911.
Right.
And it's all right too. A lot of us want to be kind today, but it's all right to ask someone to leave and close the door and say, thank you, I'm done today.
Okay, so your suggestion was a great one. Don't let them into the house. Let's just assume that perhaps somebody hasn't seen it. Well, I guess if they haven't seen this video, they're not going to see the next part. But for some reason, somebody invites them into the house. There's some need to. It's raining outside. They need to go get their checkbook. There's something. So they're going to now invite this solicitor into their house. And again, we're going to preface this by saying we don't think that you should be doing that. But in the event that you do invite somebody into the house, what are steps that you should take at the time that they are crossing the threshold and coming into your house?
Okay, one is if you have a dog, and even if the dog's the friendliest dog in the world, don't let them know that. Have that dog stand beside you. That's just a visual deterrent. Another one is if you have your alarm pad is right by the door, stay in that vicinity so that you could hit the police emergency button. Also have a phone with you. I'd prefer to have a landline because if you call 911, that landline number goes directly in as compared to a cell phone is going to hit a tower. Another thing you could have would be your alarm for your vehicle. If needed, you could press that and that would grab some attention if needed. That's the worst case scenario. If you started to feel uncomfortable or the person started to barge themselves into the home a little more. Like, so, oh, let me take a look around. Or I like your TV in your family room. Well, those type of conversations shouldn't be happening. So someone's trying to look into something else.
Yeah. Okay. And then a couple times as we've gone through these different things here, we've talked about getting the police involved. So, I mean, I guess the question I want to tee up to you is, what is your attitude in terms of whether you should err on the side of getting the police involved or you should err on the side of not bothering the police? What's your
Get the police involved. Too many people today decide to just call a non-emergency line, and that delays time. We want to have a record of their information in case something does happen. We've made contact with this person. They could go to that house, leave, no one, they call our station, hey, just wanted to let you know, and we don't follow up with it. But if they 911 it, we get there and actually can connect with that person, have their information. So if something does happen, we know who it is, or at least have a suspect.
I want to directly address our residents and make two important points at this juncture. Kind of related points. The first point is, want a police response. The number that you should come one. Forget this idea in your head about emergency, non-emergency. If you need to come, call is not. Now, if what you're doing is you're calling and you're saying something like, is your office open? Or
what time is the 5K race?
5K race, exactly. Time to emergency number or use number. But if the idea is to get a response, then forget a question of whether it's an emergency or it's not an emergency and call 911. So that's the first point is call 911. Whole non-emergency numbers. It records the call, all sorts of things that you call a non. First point is call 911 if you want a police response, and that includes when you're dealing with solicitors. The second point is involved. And, we'll understand when I see Township Police Department, we contract with them. Get our money's worth. So don't be afraid to call them.
Correct.
This is their job. This is what they're paid for. Let's get them involved with solicitors. They will be more than welcome to come, happy to come out. They're not going to give you a hard time. I heard a single resident complain that the department is giving them grief for here. They are more than willing to do this. This is their job. This is what they want. Of getting the police involved.
Correct. One other thing I'd like to bring up. So the reason that you call them now is, and they get linked to and trying.
I mean, so it's true here. I mean, somebody could be up calling Ohio Township. They have no idea what's happening.
Right.
So they're shared knowledge. And really, if you've ever been what we urge your federation to be doing, where they're being able to say, well, this event is happening in Sewickley Heights, this event is happening in Aleppo, and there's something going on there that involves a bigger picture than just one specific municipality.
Correct.
All right. Well, the last point I want to leave you with is let us know if you have questions. I mean, obviously, we've tried to anticipate the questions that you have, but if you have any questions about solicitation awareness, I'll put a link in the digest back to the fraud prevention video because I think that's a good one as well. But if you have any questions about public safety, police involvement, 911, anything like that, feel free to give me an email. Feel free to call the Aleppo Township office, or feel free to call, in that instance, maybe I would say the non-emergency number of the Ohio Township Police Department, and let us know. And we're happy to address these issues either in another video in the future or just in email or at a meeting. So thank you for joining us today, Corporal Simkowiak.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming back in.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.